Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome to The Print. High Commissioner Barry O'Farrell, and good to have you in India as the new High Commissioner designate from Australia to India. So just to understand quickly right now, I mean, you come at a time when there's a pandemic around the world, there's crisis. All countries, India, Australia, and US, and every country today is fighting the pandemic. So just to understand, there was this summit meeting that was supposed to happen between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Scott Morrison in January, which unfortunately got cancelled because of the bushfire incident in Australia. But I do understand that the summit meeting will take place maybe end of this month or next month. What is it expected? What is it that we can look forward, keeping in mind that right now probably the agenda has changed with the pandemic?
Well, regrettably, firstly, because of our bushfires, as you say, and now because of the COVID crisis, the long-planned summit between our Prime Ministers has been delayed. But like good friends, we've been in constant contact during the current COVID crisis. And in a telephone conversation earlier last month, both Prime Ministers agreed to have a virtual Leaders Summit this month, and that remains our plan. The purpose of the summit is, I suppose, threefold: to elevate the relationship even further, to secondly, continue to deepen our collaboration in shaping a post-COVID world, and thirdly, I suppose, to realise the great ambition we have for the India-Australia relationship, which is about strengthening the security and stability of the Indo-Pacific region. If I want to give you a particular example, we're also keen to deepen science, technology and research collaboration, particularly in finding innovative ways to battle COVID-19.
That's interesting when you talk about Indo-Pacific as being one of the, topmost in the agenda in a post-COVID world. So how is it that Australia is viewing the post-COVID world, and what do you expect India to do with Australia bilaterally and also within the Indo-Pacific setup?
Well, for instance, Australia and India currently have cooperation, for instance, through the Quad. And one of the issues that the Quad has proved itself useful for is a forum to coordinate approaches by like-minded democracies to tackle some of the key issues that confront us all: counter-terrorism, cybersecurity, and maritime security. They're issues that are problems now. And I can't envisage that there'll be any less problems later. And so, as countries that share a border with a massive ocean, we also have an obligation to ensure that it's free and open and secure, and a responsibility to protect it. And I think that working together, that's one of the things we can do in the post-COVID world.
Interesting. We also understand that, there was a meeting of the Quad Plus now. In Australia's point of view, is this Quad Plus going to be a new arrangement which will be separate from the Quad? How will it work?
Well, look, I think the fact that the Quad itself is being celebrated, the fact that last year we had a ministerial, it was elevated to ministerial level, is a vote of confidence in the forum for providing the sort of outcomes that countries like Australia and India are finding useful. I mentioned a moment ago that we both have interest in a free, secure and open Indian Ocean region. The fact is that we have an interest also in ensuring that it's a region that's characterised by free, open and inclusive societies, by rules and norms, and not by authoritarianism and raw politics. And as I say again, I think the Indo-Pacific is an area where I can only envisage greater cooperation, greater collaboration between our two nations as we leave this COVID crisis.
Also, in terms of some of the takeaways from the summit, can we expect this time both countries to sign the mutual logistics agreement, and how will that help in strengthening the ties further between India and Australia?
Well, I hope so, because that agreement will put some structure around ad hoc arrangements that we currently have in place about how we deal with each other's exchanges. For instance, with naval exercises, it's an important stepping stone in in helping to facilitate more and more complex defence ties between our two countries. And as major countries in the region, as I've said before, we have a strong interest in the Indo-Pacific. One of the ways to ensure that it's free, secure and open is through defence cooperation, particularly in the naval area. And that's why this logistics agreement is critical to both of us.
Okay. Coming to the big elephant in the room, or should I say the dragon in the room, is China. Now, I do understand that Australia is planning to launch a full-fledged investigation against what has happened with the COVID pandemic, how it originated. How do you see India's role in this, being a like-minded democracy, your partner, a strategic partner? How will that dynamic work?
I think it's important, firstly, to make the point that we're not going to investigate any country or any institution, but we do believe that an independent review into the pandemic aimed at strengthening the World Health Organization going forward is a sensible thing to do. Like India, Australia is a friend of the World Health Organization. We've seen it do tremendous work in both of our countries, and we look forward to India assuming the chairmanship of the Executive Council later this month. But we believe that after a pandemic of this scale, at an appropriate time, the world should reflect on how it can better prevent and mitigate another pandemic, and ensuring that the World Health Organization is fit for purpose should be important in that. We think that's, and so we're arguing for an international independent review into, for instance, the genesis and spread of the disease, how countries have dealt with the crisis in their own countries, around how information has been shared between nations as they've battled the disease, and of course the WHO's engagement as the global response to the pandemic has been rolled out. We think it's a prudent action. And to come directly to your question, I note that one of Prime Minister Modi's key messages at the recent G20 summit was the need to strengthen the World Health Organization. I think we're on the same page, and we look forward to working together to deliver that outcome for an organisation that, as I say, we are both friends of. We know that it does great work in our neighbourhoods, and we both provide funds too.
Mm-hmm. High Commissioner, coming to bilateral cooperation on COVID, I do understand Australia has been able to control it somewhat and taken adequate measures. India, you've seen, is still undergoing a lockdown. And yes, to some extent, it has proved to be successful. Now, in terms of best practice share, what is it that India can learn from Australia, and also vice versa? And if there will be, in terms of exchanges of medical devices, medicines, and other things, if you can, elaborate on that, please.
Look, I think the good news is that Australia and India are on the same page when it comes to battling this crisis. We might be at different stages of the battle, but both of us took quick, decisive action early in battling the crisis. Both of us have sought not just to combat the disease, but also to mitigate the impact upon those across our communities who are least able to deal with the consequences. So I think lockdowns, social distancing have been incredibly important in flattening the curve in Australia and in the progress that's been made here. But equally, we're both countries that are vibrant democracies. We're federations. We've used our governance structures to persuade our citizens to abide by those rules that are changing their lives, that require them to stay in place, to isolate themselves if they're at risk, to socially distance and to limit their other actions. And we've done so in a democratic process. That's different to other countries where it might be easy in China to close down a province or close down a city. In democracies like Australia and India, that's much harder. But Prime Minister Modi's proved successful here, and so has Prime Minister Morrison at home. In terms of broader cooperation, I have to say that India, for Australia, as it has for so many other countries in the world, has been incredibly important in providing pharmaceuticals and medical protective equipment as we've sought in our own countries to battle the COVID crisis. In their phone conversation at the start of April, both Prime Ministers made it clear they wanted to protect the citizens of each other's countries who were stranded in their countries during this crisis. So Prime Minister Modi has and the government of India has assisted in evacuating more than 3,000 Australians across 10 flights from 4 cities in India to this point. There are more flights happening today and over the coming weeks. And in Australia, the Australian government and its universities have put 485 crore rupee into initiatives to assist Indian and other foreign students who have been stranded in Australia during this crisis. And on top of that, we've seen increased collaboration in the research and science area. We've got researchers from Griffith University partnering with scientists from IIL, a Hyderabad-based vaccine manufacturer, working on a vaccine for COVID-19.
That's interesting. And also to understand in terms of, as you just talked about vaccines. Now, how is Australia sort of, doing in this vaccine trials? And do you think, how soon can you think you'll be successful in this, in terms of partnership with other countries?
Well, we're already partnering. So a good example is we're working with IIL in Hyderabad through a university. I know our CSIRO is also working with institutions around the world, as many institutions, including in this country, are working too. So I think it's one of the rich areas of growth during this current crisis, the common desire to find as quickly as possible a vaccine. But I'll leave it to the experts to tell you what the timeframe on that is, because I wasn't a particularly good science student.
So, High Commissioner, if I can come to the defence cooperation a little bit, I do understand it's been a long desire for Australia to sort of join the Malabar exercise. Is that talk still going on between India and Australia so that, you can be part of the trilateral maritime exercise?
Our defence cooperation, I think, is sometimes overlooked as a strength in the Australia-India relationship. It's at an historic high, and our defence engagements have quadrupled over the past six years. And the AusIndex bilateral naval exercise was Australia's largest defence deployment to India and its most complex, including submarine-on-submarine serials, as well as P8 maritime patrols across the Bay of Bengal. So whilst we do and would like to participate in the Malabar exercises, we know that is a decision not for us, but for the partners of that exercise. In the meantime, we're focusing our energies on how we can continue to grow and deepen our defence relationship.
Lastly, High Commissioner, if I can come back to the contentious issue, I would call it contentious, between India and Australia on the matter of trade. Yes, these two countries have been negotiating a sort of a free trade agreement for a very long time. However, that took little time, so the focus got shifted to RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. I do understand that Australia was a little bit disappointed when India, went out of the negotiations, but what is it that, when the summit meeting takes place between both leaders, will Australia sort of urge India to come back to RCEP? Or do you think in a post-COVID world, the shape of RCEP is also going to change?
Well, firstly, we know that the decision on RCEP is one for the government of India, not for Australia. But India knows that the door is still open for India to engage with RCEP. It's not till the final quarter of this year that the agreement is meant to be signed. And if India were to engage, I think there could be no better time than now. Australia is a big supporter of India's push to take a larger role in the global supply chain. And a decision to join RCEP would send a clear signal to the world that India was an attractive place in which to invest, but also a potential global manufacturing hub, as envisaged by the government of India in its Make in India policy. So the only other point I'd make about free trade is that we are keen to continue to deepen our trade ties with India where possible, and we're currently examining the ways in which we might be able to capitalise on the progress made during the RCEP negotiations between India and Australia. But as we know, in any trade negotiations, both countries have interest, and trying to accommodate as many as possible is the key to getting the best possible outcome. But we've seen some good progress of late. So, we're importing malt barley into India to assist the local beer industry expand and grow its product, and at the same time, table grapes are now able to be sold in Australia, so that there's mutual benefits in that. It's sort of reciprocity in that malt barley coming to India to provide advantage here, and wonderful Indian table grapes coming to Australia to be sold there.
So talking in terms of, just to understand, there were issues on the agricultural side when it came to the free trade agreement, the bilateral agreement. Are those negotiations still on? Do you think a formal round of talks will happen now going forward in this year?
As I say, we will continue to explore ways in which to capitalise on the agreements and the progress that was made between India and Australia during the RCEP round of negotiations. But that when it comes to trade, both parties normally have particular interests. It's a matter of how we prioritise those interests to get them into an agreement that is sufficiently strong and good enough for both parties to sign up.
Mm-hmm. And what about services trade? I understand in Australia right now, there are some reports coming up that it is, beginning to look inwards. Will that impact Indian professionals working there?
Well, look, Australia for 200 plus years has looked to the world, both as a trading nation, but also as a receiver of migrants from around the world. I don't see those fundamentals changing. We are a similar democracy, sharing similar traits to India. The services sector in Australia continues to be strong and grow strongly as it is doing here, and India, of course, is making a significant contribution to the Australian services sector.
Mm-hmm. High Commissioner, thank you so much for talking to The Print, and thank you for giving us the time. Please take care.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.